You're listening to Salt and Light Catholic Radio, celebrating 15 years of broadcasting the truth of the Catholic Church on KGEM 1140 AM and 102.3 FM Boise, KTFI 1270 AM and 101.7 FM Twin Falls, and KRIF 88.3 FM and HD1, Rockford, Idaho Falls.
It's an exciting morning show on Salt and Light Radio. It's time to start your day the Catholic way. Morning Light is 1 hour of live local information and interviews, along with news, traffic, weather, and sports from the Treasure and Magic Valleys. The Salt and Light Catholic Radio Network now presents Morning Light with your hosts Brian Howell and Hope Ryan.
Good morning from the St. Gabriel Studio, beautiful Boise, Idaho. It is time for another marvelous Monday edition of Morning Light on July 14th. Who's coming up today?
Today we have here in studio Emily Naugle. She is our passionately pro-life advocate. Then we'll head east to talk about our next parish of the week. And finally, Mary Wax will tell us why Catholics do that.
Please pray for our praise. Today we are praying for Salt and Light Radio's spiritual director, none other than Father Johannes from the Fraternity of Verbum Spei. And pray for vocations this week, praying for Sister Chanel Schuler, one of the Benedictines up in Cottonwood at St. Gertrude's.
Today we celebrate the feasts of a saint whose last name everyone says differently. St. Kateri Tekakwitha, who lost her parents and her little brother in the smallpox epidemic when she was just 4 years old. We'll learn more about the patron saint of Indigenous Americans later in the hour.
Currently 66 degrees in Boise. It's also 66 in Twin Falls. Grangeville reporting 69, and it's 60 degrees in Idaho Falls.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Father in heaven, may the faith you have given us in your Son, Jesus Christ, our brother, and the flame of charity enkindled in our hearts by the Holy Spirit, reawaken in us the blessed hope for the coming of your kingdom. May your grace transform us into tireless cultivators of the seeds of the gospel. May those seeds transform from within both humanity and the whole cosmos in the sure expectation of a new heaven and a new earth, when, with the powers of evil vanquished, your glory will shine eternally. May the grace of the Jubilee reawaken in us, pilgrims of hope, a yearning for the treasures of heaven. May that same grace spread the joy and peace of our Redeemer throughout the earth. To you, our God, eternally blessed, be glory and praise forever. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Traffic and weather are right after this.
Salt and Light Catholic Radio. Change your station, change your life. That slogan serves as a beacon for us to stay on track and continue to bring more souls to Christ. Your business has the opportunity to cooperate in our work by becoming a Beacon of Light sponsor. Your support not only furthers our mission, but it keeps this ministry financially viable. How can your business become a Beacon of Light? Call us at 208-344-4774 or visit saltandlightradio.com to learn more.
This is Paul Ford, field agent for Knights of Columbus Insurance. You know the Knights for their service to the parish and community. But did you know we were named by Forbes as one of America's best insurance companies in 2022? Knights of Columbus offers life insurance, disability income protection, long-term care coverage, and retirement annuities. All Catholic men and their families are eligible. For more information, my phone number is 208-521-0931. That's 208-521-0931.
Are you looking to deepen your understanding of the Catholic faith? Join Catholic 101 Apologetics at St. Paul's Church in Nampa. Sessions are held every second, third, fourth, and fifth Thursday of the month in the St. Magdalene Room. The Spanish sessions are from 6 to 7:25 p.m. and the English sessions are from 7:30 to 9 p.m. Learn how to confidently answer questions about the Catholic faith. Everyone is welcome.
Good morning, light traffic. So your freeway commute looks pretty good this morning. A little bit of slowing at Northside, a little bit of slowing at Clarity, a little bit of slowing between 10 Mile and Meridian, but it's just a little bit, so not your usual crawl. Chinden slow in construction, but every time I go through there, I think, man, this is going to be great when they get done. So something to look forward to in the next year or two or three. That's your morning light traffic.
Triple-digit heat in the Treasure Valley today, mid-90s tomorrow and Wednesday, lows between 60 and 65. Magic Valley, partly cloudy today and tomorrow with highs between 90 and 95, and overnight lows 60 to 65. Cloudy off and on over the next few days across eastern Idaho, highs around 90, lows 55 to 60. And finally, Camas Prairie, hot today, a high of 95, mostly sunny, highs 80 to 85. Over the next couple of days after today, and lows will be in the mid-50s. 68 in Nampa, 67 in Fruitland, and Rupert reporting 60 degrees.
Human life is sacred, as written in paragraph 2258 in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. God alone is the Lord of life, from the moment of conception until its natural end. Morning Light now presents Passionately Pro-Life, a weekly segment that focuses on all the important topics from womb to tomb.
7:06 Morning Light continues across the Salt and Light Catholic Radio Network. Thanks for joining us on Marvelous Monday. I was trying to think the last time that we've even had you in the studio, or even had you on the show, I guess, for that matter. It's been a few weeks.
It feels like a long time.
Yeah, yep. Well, yeah, when we went to Italy,
Right.
it kind of put a little... Yeah, we went off of our
your
schedule of every
yeah.
Monday, and so I've only been, I think, once since then, but yeah.
Wow. Well, it's great to have you back, Emily.
Indeed.
Yes. Yeah, and in part, too, is because we had some great guests with, the infertility ministry in June. We really wanted the Springs in the Desert is a great ministry. If you guys missed those shows, they're all archived. Springs in the Desert, and it... is for the spiritual needs of people struggling with infertility. And then, of course, we have NAPRO, which next week we will have Ashley Jensen. There's a change in the lineup. She is the NAPRO provider in the Treasure Valley, and that is more of the physical needs with infertility. As we know, the restorative reproductive medicine is just phenomenal and works even better than IVF. And so, anyways, but yes, I'm here and I have happy news. Planned Parenthood has been defunded for 1 year. That was part of the, quote, big, beautiful bill. And so, the taxpayer funding is the abortion empire's largest source of revenue. They get $750 million federal dollars, and that is through mostly Medicaid reimbursement. And so Medicaid they are going to restrict them as a provider, and so then they will not get that huge revenue stream, and that is very good news for the pro-life movement. Sean Carney, of course, president of 40 Days for Life, he said this is even bigger than overturning Roe v. Wade, in his opinion. And
is there any nervousness about this being just 1 year?
Probably, but I do think there's going to be a lot of benefits. I mean, they're expecting maybe even 200,
closures.
Closures of Planned Parenthood across 24 states.
Nice.
And we already saw the kind of flagship Planned Parenthood that's located in Manhattan, New York, closed in the spring, in part because they were expecting the restriction of funds. And I mean, that's huge. I mean, it was literally located on Margaret Sanger Way. I mean, it was that was kind of their drive or whatever. So it is huge, and we may see mergers, and we may see them try to get some of that funding back. I mean, I think there is a temporary block even on that defunding of Planned Parenthood, but there was already a Supreme Court case in South Carolina that determined that Medicaid, can restrict its providers. It is constitutional to restrict through Medicaid.
Yes, I heard about that,
yes.
That each state can have. It's been so encouraging to watch the Supreme Court especially give issues back to the states. It's like, here's your autonomy back. Now make decisions for your people. That's encouraging.
And, of course, there's been Supreme Court cases that say, these small judges our federal judges are overstepping their bounds, blocking some of the actions that President Trump has done. But this was, in the big, beautiful bill passed by Congress. So, and I think one of the big things, and this is going to affect us locally, is that, Planned Parenthood, they get all this government money, and then they're able to, funds are fungible, and then they're able to use their clout politically to endorse all these candidates. And then when they endorse all these candidates, they're getting all this money. So then these politicians are very pro-choice, to please their funding source, so to speak. And so if they don't have all that money, then they're going to lose a lot of their political sway, because I think we saw with Kamala Harris, she really, leaned into the abortion issue big time, and she, kind of had a big loss there. And so I do think that will help a lot. And here in Idaho, we have a ballot initiative coming. The Women's Reproductive Freedom and Privacy Act will be on the ballot in November of 2026. And this is, similar to with the ranked choice voting, it's going to go onto the ballot where the voters will vote whether they want to enshrine a right to abortion up to the point of viability, and then with exceptions for fetal anomalies, even beyond that. Wow. And so we have 14 months, but we want to be sure. We want to do everything we can, but it's good if they're nervous about money, because they won't be pouring as much outside money into our state with this ballot initiative. And so I think the state of Washington already said that they were going to, backfill any lack of funding. And I'm sure Oregon will do the same thing. And so if they're spending a lot of their monies doing different things, they won't be pouring the money into this abortion initiative in the state of Idaho. And so that's great for us.
Do you know in the verbiage if people need to oppose this bill or support as far as the language goes? Because often the language is spun around so that opposing means supporting, but supporting means opposing. Do you know?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're going to want to oppose it.
Okay.
Yeah. It's for the reproductive freedom and privacy, so you're going to want to oppose it.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I just want to
is
be
good
clear because I don't want to screw it up.
People tend to, if they're at all unsure, oppose things. And so having it where we oppose it is in our favor, because if someone's unsure, they'll tend to oppose it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have lots of time to talk more about that. And one of the things, in fact, coming up is, hopefully you've been seeing Save the Dates, and about Right to Life of Idaho's Unwavering Witness. We're going to think a little bit of like a Taco Tuesday. So on Tuesday, August 12th, we're going to be doing tacos at St. Mark's. It's open to everyone, not just Catholics, but of course our audience here is mostly Catholic. And then we're going to have the president of the National Right to Life Committee come and speak. So Carol Tobias, she's been in the pro-life movement for a long time. She's the president of National Right to Life, like I said. She's from North Dakota originally. She's been on the board since 1987. I'm like, wow, that's like almost longer than I've been alive. So she's been doing this for a very long time. For 8 years, she was the executive director of North Dakota's Right to Life. And then for 14 years, she was the political director for National Right to Life. And during her tenure as political director, she had major pro-life victories through the U.S. House of Representatives and the Senate. She oversaw that. In 2000 and 2004, she oversaw the efforts on the National Right to Life's Political Action Committee on behalf of George W. Bush. In 2014, she testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee in opposition of the so-called Women's Health Protection Act. She's appeared on ABC, World News Tonight, NBC's Today, NewsHour on PBS, news shows, CNN, C-SPAN. She's done a lot and has always been an unwavering witness to the pro-life cause. And with this aforementioned ballot initiative coming, then we're all going to need to stand up and be unwavering witnesses for life, just because we have seen in other states, pro-life states, these ballot initiatives pass because, well, I'm sure a multitude of reasons. In part, I think in Montana when it passed, they were using lies. And I think with this defunding of Planned Parenthood, we are going to see a lot of hackles up. And so we are going to see that extreme rhetoric. Women will die. Women will suffer. We have, these pro-life laws are killing people. And you see a lot of different podcasts and things addressing this, getting into the details. Why is this not true? Be confident that this, is not true. But sometimes, though, because of that extreme rhetoric, it does actually put women's lives at risk because they think, oh, I had an at-home abortion because it's illegal in my state. I'm not going to go to the hospital and get care. Which that is never, women are never penalized. Abortion is illegal, but if you need care, go to the hospital, please.
Yeah.
I was just ruminating about what you said there. Pro-life laws are killing women.
Yeah.
Pro-life
Right? The
laws.
irony is right there in those couple of words.
But that's
never mind
that's
the
what they
millions of
keep saying.
babies who have been slaughtered over the years due to abortion. Let's not talk about that. It's the pro-life laws that are killing people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and one other little side note in that big beautiful bill is they did make permanent the child tax credit of $2,200. So that was another pro-life thing that happened there.
Brian's bummed because now all of his kids are outside of
they can't claim them anymore.
Rats.
They're all adults, supposedly, in the eyes of
We're
the
air
law.
quoting.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's funny. And so we can put up lots of prayers of thanksgiving, and then if we want to, there's always things we can pray for. They are going to be opening another late term abortion facility outside of Chicago. And so, unfortunately, we like to hear all the news of them closing, but unfortunately, there is one that will be opening in the Chicago area. So we can pray that doesn't happen. I mean, hey, we can always pray and just pray that, hopefully there'll be a 40 Days for Life presence, and we will see the fruits of those prayers.
Right.
And just if they can just keep praying for Right to Life of Idaho and all of the pro-life organizations. Just with this ballot initiative, this is, there's a lot of behind the scenes strategy, things happening, trying to have that united front and not have 20 different organizations with 20 different approaches, and then it can kind of get confusing. And I heard that was part of it in Ohio when it passed, was that the pro-life movement there was not really united. And so we just pray for unity. Our friends at Oregon Right to Life, they're like, what? There's multiple pro-life organizations? What would that be like?
Oh, wow.
Because they're very much, just there is a lot of course, pro-choice people there. And so it is a blessing that we have all of these pro-life organizations, but then hopefully we can, just work together. We're all on the same team and work together. And so I'm excited about the taco dinner, and hopefully you'll be seeing in your bulletin. I'm on the board of Right to Life, for our listeners on the board of Right to Life of Idaho. And instead of doing a fancy gala where it's $60 a person and then it, is not as accessible to people, we wanted to really just make this as accessible as possible. So it's $20 a person, St. Mark's, Tuesday, August 12th. The doors will open at 6. And then we did a discounted rate for students, which is really nice because you know how expensive catered food is.
Right.
We're subsidizing it for the students. And so we love you students. We love your passion. Come, $10. We're happy to have you there. $10 a student for the taco dinner. And then this will be the week before the Western Idaho Fair starts. And Right to Life of Idaho always has a booth. We have another corner booth, the fetal models that just touch so many lives. And then, everyone will be in the know about the ballot initiative if you come on Tuesday, August 12th. And you can always reach me at prolifersvp@gmail.com. I can just send you the link. Otherwise, I know it's on the Facebook page. Hope can hopefully share
I'm going to post
some
it
of the
for sure.
information. And then, like I said, look for it in your bulletin.
Is it important that people RSVP for this event, or just ready for a crowd?
No, it is. If you go through the QR code, they have it's called RegFox. It's kind of like Eventbrite, but Eventbrite is not a conservative organization.
Sure.
So we like RegFox, and also the fees are a lot lower. And then you can just buy the $20 online or $10 online.
Yes.
Or if you need to email me and make some other arrangement, we can collect credit cards over the phone. The posters have Julie's phone number. If you want to buy a table, strongly recommend it. Since it's only $20 a person, it makes it pretty affordable. And then you can sit with your friends.
Nice.
Nice. Tacos with friends. It's a
Yes.
win.
So I had a question since abortion became illegal here in Idaho about the chemical abortions, if women were still able to purchase the drugs out of state and have them sent to Idaho, or because Idaho it's illegal, they won't send the chemical abortion pills. I didn't know where Idaho stood with that, if there was even a way to monitor that, because it's privacy in the U.S. mail.
Right. That is my impression, that they can get them through the mail, but I don't think they would be able to get them from a reputable place if you have the mailing address in Idaho. Right.
Okay.
But I think there's lots of places out there that you can get them.
Because you don't even need to be face-to-face with a doctor. You can do it over telehealth.
Probably, yeah.
Yike. Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, it used to be kind of like the Plan B pills and stuff that you can just
Get those over the counter.
Yeah, you
Right,
can,
vending machines.
Right.
Wow.
or just like on Amazon. I saw them on Amazon. This was a couple years ago. They were called period pills, and it's just like, oh, are you late for your period? Here, take these. And oh my gosh, there's thousands of reviews, and I was just like, this is so depressing. And then a couple months ago, I looked to see if it was still there, and they weren't. I was like, oh, that's good. I wonder why they're not there anymore. I'm like, that's great. And
Interesting.
so yeah, sadly, I think that there's not a way to really regulate that.
Yeah.
And so that is one of the things for sure on the radar, is getting that public service announcement out there, how dangerous these pills really are. Sean Carney's organization, 40 Days for Life, they just put out, I think it was like a little video talking about on the podcast, all the different ways of media, that they're 22 times more deadly than what the packaging, like the statistic on the packaging, the warning, they said that there's studies that support it's actually 22 times more likely that you'll have a severe complication than what that warning label says. And so there's, the Prolife OBGYN's organization, they're trying to, really get the FDA to either pull it, put those put more warnings on there.
Right.
One of the things that had happened legislatively is they took away the mandatory reporting of side effects, especially. And so it's like, okay,
oh my goodness.
it was some, emergency approval that it went through the FDA, and it's like, okay, we need to do this properly. If they're going to be legal, we need to at least do it properly where people understand how dangerous these abortion pills really are.
Right.
And so anyway, so there's a lot of area for legislation and changes and just getting the education out there how dangerous these are. And I think since it's illegal in our state, it's so important for us to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely on the radar. And there's a pro-life speaker based out of Salem, Oregon, Elizabeth Gillette, and she has a really powerful testimony. And so that's something we have an eye on for the future, to have her, on the show or share her story at an event. So.
Wow.
All right.
So many things.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
Indeed. Thank you so much.
Emily Naugle, our passionately pro-life advocate, joining us here to kick off a marvelous Monday edition of Morning Light. We will take a short break and be back with our next Parish of the Week as Morning Light continues next.
Are you struggling to find a way to spread the news about your upcoming event and reach more of the Catholic community? Salt and Light Radio would love to support your effort. Click the Public Service Announcement tab at our website, saltandlightradio.com, and we can help you design, record, and produce some fantastic public service announcements. And best of all, they're free. Salt and Light Catholic Radio. Change your station, change your life.
Support for Salt and Light Radio comes from Beacon of Light members Accent Funeral Home. Planning funeral arrangements while grieving is never easy. When you pre-plan with Accent, you ease the burden on your loved ones and ensure your final wishes are known. Compassionate professional care and options to fit every budget. The website is accentfuneral.com and their phone number is 208-888 5833. Accent Funeral Home. Catholics helping our Catholic community.
There will be an 11-day pilgrimage to Greece and the Greek islands with Father Adrian Vasquez from St. Bernard's Catholic Church in Blackfoot, Idaho on October 5th through the 15th of 2025. The cost is $5,200 and will depart from Boise, Idaho. The spiritual director will be Father Adrian Vasquez. If you want more information, contact info@nativitypilgrimage.com or call St. Bernard's for more information at 208-785-1935.
725 Morning Light continues across the Salt and Light Catholic Radio Network. And our parish of the week for this week, St. Kateri Tekakwitha Chapel in Fort Hall. I mean, who else would it be with today being her feast day and all? I think that falls under the, not ownership, but the pastor's is Father Adrian Vasquez out there at St. Bernard's in Blackfoot.
Excellent.
So St. Kateri, the chapel there in Fort Hall, congratulations, is our next parish of the week.
Right.
We were unable to hook up with anybody to really talk about the parish. We'll share some details about the chapel here in just a little bit, but our friends Tom and Noel Crow, we have them lined up. They're going to tell us all about the patron and tell us more about who we honor today on her feast day here on Morning Light. American Catholic history lesson for you.
Good morning. Thanks for having us again.
Kateri Tekakwitha. Now, it's interesting, when I lived for a brief stint up in Rochester, they say Kateri, New York.
Kateri, yes, I've heard it pronounced that way too.
I had never heard it before. I've always heard it Kateri.
Same here. I had never heard Kateri until she told me they said it up that way from
Up
Rochester.
there, yeah.
I mean, I just think they're wrong.
They do live closer to where she was born, because she was born in 1656 in the village of Osernanon in New York, which is very close to Orisville, which nowadays is the shrine of the North American martyrs.
Right.
So she was born right up there in that region.
And only a few, 11, 12 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Her father was a Mohawk chief. Her mother was a Catholic Algonquin woman who had been captured by the Mohawk and integrated into their tribe.
Basically became a Mohawk.
Yeah. Kateri had a younger brother as also, but when she was 4, her mother, her father, and her younger brother all died in a smallpox epidemic. Kateri also had smallpox, but she did not die, but she was disfigured. Her face had many scars on it from that, and her sight was affected.
Yes.
Which is what led to her name. Most people, when we hear Kateri Tekakwitha, we think that's her first and her last name, right? That's what we're used to. In reality, those are both of her names, her Christian name and her Mohawk name, because Tekakwitha means she who bumps into things.
Really?
In the Mohawk language. And so that's actually what her name was.
Because the Mohawks didn't give names to children until they manifested some behavior or tendency that the Mohawks would then name them according to. Well, she was apparently quite clumsy because her eyesight was dim, so they called her she who bumps into things. That's what Tekakwitha means.
Yes. And so Kateri is actually the Mohawk form of Catherine. Because when she was baptized, when she was almost 20 years old, she took the name Catherine after Catherine of Siena. So Kateri Tekakwitha, her Christian name, Catherine, and her Mohawk name, she who bumps into things.
Wow. So how did Catholicism reach that region during that time frame? How would her mother have even been Catholic?
Well, her mother was Catholic because the Algonquin tribes had been evangelized by the Jesuits.
Up in Canada.
Up in Canada, and so she would have brought that from them. The Mohawk hadn't been evangelized as much, but there was a French raiding party that raided the Mohawk village. So they left their village, kind of went to the other side of the river from there, and sort of the treaty that came out of this raid and conflict, part of that treaty was that the Mohawk agreed to allow Jesuit missionaries to set up a mission near their village. And so this is right around the time Kateri is 10, 11 years old. And this is where she first encounters the Jesuits. And she's very taken with them and their teaching. And she decides to basically emulate them to live that kind of a life.
And she decided at a fairly early age to remain a virgin. So which was a revolutionary thing, because in the Mohawk society, the female's job was to get married and have a lot of Mohawk babies.
Right.
So at the age of 13, they start encouraging her to think about this, and she says, "My only spouse is Jesus," and she's not going
At 13.
At 13,
Wow.
right? She's not going to get married. She eventually starts receiving catechism classes and is baptized. And in about a year later, in 1677, she moves to a place in Canada, in Saint Louis, excuse me, that is a village that was set up by the Jesuits for Catholic natives to come and to live.
Right, because so many of them had suffered abuse, they'd been ridiculed and whatnot within their tribes. So
Right.
this village was set up so they had a place where they could live in community and live the Catholic life free of the persecution. She had a few other women, natives, who she lived with, who they all had taken on this Catholic life, and they kind of lived as a religious community, and they had taken on such severe practices, penances, that at one point their spiritual director actually told them, "You really need to relax some of these, because yes, it's great you want to do this, but this is too severe and you're going to harm your health," which, that's not good either.
They did things like putting thorns in their mattresses and other things. They did want to start actually an official religious community for Native women, but the priests discouraged them, right? It's like, that's not going to work. So they didn't end up by doing that. But in 1679, Kateri did take a kind of formal vow of virginity. There was no bishop to receive it, so she wasn't actually a consecrated virgin, because there's a whole rite of consecrated virgins, but she's generally considered to be one even without that, because of the way that she took this vow. Now, again, she was always very sickly. She was skilled in sort of needlework and the beading and the types of work that women do, but she didn't, sort of these gentle things were the things that she had always done because of her illness, and her ascetical practices exasperated all of that. So in 1680, at the age of 23 or 24, it became clear that her health was failing and she wasn't going to live much longer. Anyways, eventually, April 17th, 1680 is when she died. It was Holy Week that week, and they say that, or witnesses said that about 15 minutes or so after she died, her scars, all of her smallpox scars disappeared. Her face just had been kind of swarthy before because of that, but just became radiant. And actually, there were claims from 3 people who were close to her there that she actually appeared to them after she died, and kind of told them she was on her way to heaven. The last one was one of the priests who had care of them, one of their spiritual advisors there. He's one of the ones who wrote about her life, and so this is why we know so much about her. And he said that she appeared to him near her gravesite, and he saw her for about 2 hours there. And so shortly afterwards, he built a chapel there. And so within just a couple of years after she died, it became a pilgrimage site and a site of devotion, which obviously was maintained, again, through the years. There were many accounts of miracles and things, because her cause for canonization was opened in the 30s. In 1980, she was beatified by John Paul II and canonized by Benedict XVI in 2012. So all the way from the 1600s to canonization in the 2000s.
Nice.
But a persistent devotion to her.
Do we know what she's a patron saint of, or is she been assigned?
She's a patron saint of ecology. She's the patroness of Canada, I believe, and also the patron of Native Americans.
Yeah.
Interestingly, her feast day is, I was trying to figure this out and I could not find a good explanation. Her feast day is celebrated on April 17th in Canada. That's the day she died. But in the United States, for some reason, we celebrate her feast day on July 14th. And I'm not really sure why that is.
Yeah.
That we have a different date for it.
We crazy Americans.
Right. Usually the day that somebody dies is
right.
Their feast day. But I don't know what the connection is to July 14th, but that's the day we celebrate it in the United States.
Well, people want to learn more about Kateri or any of these other saints and these great stories that you have. Where can they find you on the internet?
You can find us at AmericanCatholicHistory.org.
In the pew or in the park, sun, rain, or snow, virtual or in person, our Catholic community has events for every reason of the season. Salt and Light Radio likes to highlight these events in a weekly Monday e-newsletter we like to call Spotlight. It's a short listing of community events for the week. Be in the know of activities in the Catholic community to strengthen your faith and grow. To sign up, go to saltandlightradio.com and click on the Spotlight. Salt and Light Radio would like to thank Archangel Catholic Counseling and Therapy for their support as a Beacon of Light sponsor, offering psychological care grounded in Catholic teaching. Archangel Catholic Counseling and Therapy serves individuals, marriages, and families through both in-person and virtual appointments within Idaho and Washington State. For more information, the phone number is 208-557-1780. That's 208-557-1780. Or their website is archangelcatholic.com.
Morning Light News Time is 7:36. It's currently 70 degrees in Boise, 72 in Twin Falls, Grangeville reporting 73, and 65 degrees in Idaho Falls. A westbound Freightliner rolled over at milepost 222.8. That is very,
Very
succinct.
precise.
Interstate 84 just north of Malta early on Sunday morning. The 57-year-old driver was from Windermere, Florida. Tragically died at the scene despite being belted after the truck left the roadway and overturned. His 40-year-old passenger, also from Florida, trapped in the wreckage but was swiftly rescued and transported via ambulance to a nearby hospital. Both westbound lanes were blocked for roughly 4 hours while emergency crews responded and cleared the scene.
A Garden City man hiking in the Sawtooth National Forest was mistakenly identified as Travis Decker, a wanted fugitive. The misidentification sparked a tense situation as law enforcement approached the hiker, believing him to be the suspect. After a brief investigation, authorities confirmed the man had no connection to Decker and released him. The incident highlights the intensity of the ongoing manhunt for Decker, who remains at large. Multiple agencies, including local and federal law enforcement, continue to search the rugged terrain for the fugitive.
The Boise Hawks will be riding a 4-game win streak back to Memorial Stadium today. The Hawks beat the Colorado Springs Sky Sox, which is Hope's new favorite team. Used to be the Paddleheads. Now it's
Anything
the
related
Sky
to
Sox.
laundry, that's pretty funny.
Boise is on the road today, and the Sky Sox will be following them back to the City of Trees because the same two teams will be opening a 6-game series tomorrow night here in Boise. First pitch scheduled for 7:05 p.m. at Memorial Stadium. You know, despite winning 8 of their past 10 games, they're still in 4th place in league standings. They're 6.5 games behind first place, Oakland.
2 wildfires impacted Idaho over the weekend. The Grassy Fire, located about 7 miles north of St. Anthony, has burned approximately 2,000 acres. Fire crews continue working to contain the blaze as hot, dry conditions persist in the region. Meanwhile, a smaller wildfire near Horseshoe Bend temporarily blocked traffic along State Highway 55. The half-acre blaze caused brief delays as emergency crews responded quickly to prevent further spread. Both incidents highlight the growing wildfire risk across our state and our neighboring states as summer temps rise and vegetation dries out. Oh, those sky socks. They make me giggle. I need to look up, what does a sky sock look like? I mean, what do you wear? Just a giant sock with wings? It's sort of Nike, but not the shoe, but
I'm
the
thinking
sock.
maybe it's sky blue in color, too. I'm wondering what the colors are.
So many things we wonder. Good morning, light traffic. Your freeway commute is kind of slow from head to toe. You know what to expect, but no blockages or incidents that I can report to you. Eagle looks pretty good. Chinden about the same. That's your morning light traffic.
Triple-digit heat will continue to dry out that vegetation. That's going to be across the Treasure Valley. And then tomorrow and Wednesday, not much better, mid-90s. Lows 60 to 65. Partly cloudy today and tomorrow across the Magic Valley with highs 90 to 95 and lows 60 to 65 degrees. Eastern Idaho, cloudy off and on over the next few days with highs 80 to 85. And Camas Prairie, much of the same. Going to be 95 today, but then mostly sunny tomorrow and Wednesday with highs 80 to 85. 71 in Meridian. Jerome reporting 69 degrees, and it's 73 in Mountain Home. Let's learn more about our saint of the day. When we return, we will wrap up this marvelous Monday edition of Morning Light with Mary Wax telling us why Catholics do that.
This is Franciscan Media's Saint of the Day for July 14th. Today we celebrate Saint Kateri Tekakwitha. The first North American native to be canonized was baptized in 1676 and died 4 years later. Known as the Lily of the Mohawks, her life in grace grew rapidly. Kateri's mother was a Christian Algonquin and wife to the chief of the Mohawk clan. At age 4, Kateri lost her family in a smallpox epidemic that left her disfigured and half-blind. The uncle who adopted her did not welcome the young girl's growing interest in the Catholic faith or the influence of the Jesuit missionaries on her. At 19, Kateri refused to marry and converted to Catholicism. Her radical actions left her in danger. On the advice of a priest, she stole away one night and walked 200 miles to a Christian Indian village near Montreal. There she grew in holiness under the direction of a priest and an Iroquois woman, spending long hours in prayer, charity, and strenuous penance. At 23, Kateri took a vow of virginity. When she died in 1680, all traces of the smallpox scars had reportedly disappeared from her emaciated face. Pope Benedict XVI canonized Kateri Tekakwitha in 2012. There's more about the saints along with inspiration and Catholic resources at our website, saintoftheday.org. From Franciscan Media, this has been Saint of the Day.
A prayer for priests. Keep them, I pray thee, dearest Lord. Keep them, for they are thine. Thy priests, whose lives burn out before thy consecrated shrine. Keep them, for they are in the world, though from the world apart. When earthly pleasures tempt, allure, shelter them in thy heart. Keep them and comfort them in hours of loneliness and pain, when all their life of sacrifice for souls seems but in vain. Keep them and remember, Lord, they have no one but thee, yet they have only human hearts with human frailty. Keep them as spotless as the host, which daily they caress, their every thought and word and deed. Deign, dearest Lord, to bless. Amen.
Welcome back to Morning Light, heard across the Salt and Light Catholic Radio Network as we wrap up this show with Mary Wax and why Catholics do that. And we had such a tremendous response last week that we thought we'd probably pick up the conversation because I think we left with more questions than when we went into it. So we have a whole nother batch of questions about annulments. I think first of all, maybe really quick recap, what is an annulment and who needs it? And then we'll launch into this new set of questions.
Okay. An annulment is proving that the divorced couple, their marriage was not a sacrament, okay? And there's multiple ways to prove that. We talked mostly probably about the formal case. Any Catholic who has been divorced and has not received an annulment needs an annulment, okay? Any Catholic. And anyone who's in the OCIA who was married previously will need an annulment. Just because it happened outside of the church doesn't mean that the church can't prove that it was not a sacrament.
Right.
Sure. Kind of got twisted up, but you got that right.
Well, and I had to go through mine and learned about that when I was going through what was then called RCIA 25 years ago, and not really understanding how much time is involved. There's a big, and maybe it's not as bad now as it was back then, but we had to actually postpone our wedding and fast forward it like 6 months later because we were still waiting for the annulment to come through.
Right. So in those days, when you took a horse-drawn buggy to your wedding, they took a lot longer. But God bless Pope Francis, because almost the very first thing he did when he was elected Pope was say, annulments are going to be free and faster, okay? Not fast, but faster. And so a formal case usually takes up to a year. And we discussed the formal cases last
And the
week.
form.
And the
Right.
form. And a formal case is for a Catholic who was married properly in the church. Okay. And the church kind of sets up what type of annulment you need by where you were married, okay, inside the church, outside of the church, whether you were baptized, okay, because the church assumes that as a baptized Christian or Catholic, because I speak to our OCIA people also, as a baptized Christian, a person understands the sanctity of marriage. Now, I'm saying this with a laugh because as a baptized Catholic, I had no idea what marriage even meant when I got married the first time. So, but the church has to start somewhere. And so as a baptized person, that's where all of these different types of cases that I mentioned last week, they go into play.
So there's no cost anymore.
There is no cost anymore. So when Pope Francis said they should be free, the Diocese of Boise immediately made them free. Prior to that, they were $250, and that's a lot of money. If you were to go to another state, maybe farther, maybe a little southwest from here,
Right on the coast,
they were much more expensive. And if you were to go all the way to the East Coast, outrageously expensive, like $1,000.
Like prohibitively expensive.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. In fact, when I received my annulment, I had to ask my parents to help me because I had no money. I was 24 years old. I had no money. And my parents helped me out with that. And I can't remember how much it was, but I'm thinking in the 80s it was $600. That's very prohibitive.
Wow.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Who participates in this form? Last time you talked about the advocate.
Right.
Maybe address that again briefly. And then anyone else involved?
Yes. So the advocate helps. The advocate is the go-between between the petitioner and the marriage tribunal, because the marriage tribunal is the office of the diocese that puts together a case. It feels very judicial. And the language is very judicial. So the marriage tribunal puts together a case, and then it goes to a judge, okay, who is a priest. It's not a secular judge. It's
like a canon lawyer?
Yes, except that our canon lawyer is part of the marriage tribunal, so he does not do that. It goes to specific priests who are appointed judges for the marriage tribunal.
Do people know who they are? Is that public knowledge?
It is public knowledge, I believe, but I can't remember who the judges are right now.
Oh, okay. Sure.
But the paperwork comes back that says Judge so-and-so said this.
What a huge responsibility.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And it's a responsibility for the marriage tribunal to prove that God was not part of the sacrament. That's a huge responsibility. And so when a formal petition goes through the advocate checks to make sure all the paperwork is there, the story of, the answers to the 50 questions make some sort of sense. And the paperwork, you need to have a baptism certificate, you need to have a marriage license from the first marriage and the divorce decree from that marriage. That all gets put together and sent to the marriage tribunal. They then send out a letter to the ex-spouse that asks them if they would like to participate. Then they send out letters there are two general witnesses who will answer about 25 essay questions about that marriage. And then there are two veracity witnesses, and they are witnesses who they just verify that the petitioner, and I keep saying these big words, but the person who's filing the paperwork, the veracity witnesses verify that the petitioner is who they say they are. So if it was for me, so if I was getting an annulment, then I would ask two longtime friends to swear that I am who I say I am, basically.
Right,
okay.
right.
And then you need two people who knew you during the engagement, basically, and the wedding, who are willing to answer 25 essay questions.
powerful.
Yeah.
That is powerful.
So how much is the ex-spouse involved? And can they say no? Because as I shared last week, she was more interested in the legitimacy of our two sons.
Right.
And how that was going to affect them.
Right.
And then once I explained that to her, then she fully participated. But to what degree, I guess, do the ex-spouses have to participate in this process?
They, as much as they want, because they were a part of the marriage, they have full opportunity to participate in the annulment. Not everyone does. My ex-husband had no idea what it was, and so he just didn't do anything. Okay. Now, if the ex-spouse doesn't want to participate, that will not hold up the annulment.
Okay, good to know.
But the ex-spouse gets the opportunity to participate. They get a packet similar to the formal case that has all the questions on it that they have the opportunity to answer.
You had mentioned the tribunal.
Yes.
Can an annulment, after all the paperwork and all the steps, can that be refused? Can they look at that and go, you know what? I really think you were in.
Yeah. So I have been an annulment advocate for about 12, 13 years, and one of my cases was turned down because the marriage tribunal and the judge all could see all the pieces and parts that made it a sacrament. Wow. The person, the reason for the divorce was that one of the spouses had an affair. Okay. That was not noticeable at the wedding. So everything goes back to the wedding and whether a sacrament happened at the wedding.
Right.
Not whether both parties kept it a sacrament for the next 20 years or whatever.
Oh,
okay?
wow. Okay.
So one of these spouses, they changed afterwards. But in all of those years, only one of my annulments was turned down. And unfortunately, I help a lot of people with annulments.
Right. Well, and it's a beautiful gift to give people because it's difficult and it's bureaucratic.
Yes.
And they need someone who can empathize with them. So if the annulment goes through, does it change a person's status in the church? Do you get like a wristband that says, I was annulled? Or who knows? Who needs to know? Who doesn't need to know?
You don't even have to sew a letter on your shirt while you're there. Really, nobody knows about the annulment unless you tell them, because the advocate, as part of their oath, really is sealed to privacy. And so advocates are not even allowed to discuss annulments except for with the marriage tribunal about the case. So I couldn't even call the marriage tribunal and ask about somebody else's annulment. I can only talk to them about the ones that I'm working on.
Sure.
So your priest doesn't even know unless you've told him. This is all between you and God and the church. The Pope doesn't know. It's not on your permanent record.
Right. It's not in the forms in your file.
That's right.
Every now and then you have to request. Is there anything else people should know about annulments before we wrap up?
Let's see. We talked about they're free now. We talked about children. Children are never part of an annulment. If a divorced person is never planning on getting married again, they do not need an annulment to receive communion validly. But what I always say is, you have no idea what God has in store for you. I have known a number of people who've gotten married in their 70s and 80s. So you might as well go through it. It's very healing. You said that, Brian. Those questions are very healing to help you understand why you got married in the first place. It's a good thing to do, even though it feels like the church is picking on you. It's not. I think, Brian, you said to me that it was the best marriage therapy, and I feel the same way.
I just personal therapy, because it really makes you look at yourself.
Yes.
And it's like, where was I at that time in my life? Where were we as a couple? Why was I like that? You know, because you're a product of your environment. There are just so many really deep questions that make you take a long, hard look at yourself.
Yes.
And that's very uncomfortable sometimes, but it is the cheapest therapy that I have ever had in my life. And so a lot of fruit came out of that process. Even though it was lengthy, a lot of good things have come out of it. So,
I'm
go
really
ahead and do it.
grateful to the people who are on the tribunal because that would seem to be a very difficult and kind of tedious.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's a long application. It's like you're really kind of in the weeds of someone's life.
Yeah.
And so my gratitude to them for sticking that out years and years and years of that kind of giving.
Yeah.
And the advocates, people like you, that help people get it right with the church. That's beautiful.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for being here today.
Hey, thank you.
And we found out that Sky Sox is a fox. So, Fox the Sox.
That
Sox
was a big
the fox.
surprise.
Yeah.
Why isn't it the Colorado Spring Foxes? Why is that hard?
Oh, things to ponder today on this marvelous Monday. SaltandLightRadio.com is the place to go if you missed any of today's show or previous programs.
Follow us on YouTube. This show's live on YouTube. Download the Salt and Light Radio app before you head out this summer. Visit saltandlightradio.com for all of the awesome events like the trap shoot here on the camera so you can see. Also, tomorrow, the Idaho Catholic Women's Conference registrations opens tomorrow. So that's tonight at midnight, 12:01. You might as well stay up late and get yourself and all your friends signed up. Thank you to our guests today, Emily Naugle, the Crows, and Mary Wax.
Tomorrow we'll have the Idaho Lay Dominicans, Chef Lou Aaron, and Catholic Counseling with Jared Crump.
So join us for a terrific Tuesday. Say Kateri,
Pray
for us. The Idaho